Greetings and welcome in. It's Bettor's Last Stand, show number 132, coming to you from the Pine Room Watchdog Studios in downtown Wheeling. Good to be back after a 7-week hiatus, but you know what? It was a much-needed break for me, and a time of the year where maybe a lot of people are starting to tune out from sports, although we do have quite a bit of stuff to cover here to recap some stuff that happened over the last few weeks, the last month or so, since the early May was the last time that we had a show here on the Watchdog. So welcome back. Sorry for anybody who was missing us during that time period. It's good to be back in this capacity anyway, I will say. I'm not real wild about this weather since I've been back in town. Absolutely miserable outside, but we're nice and cool in here in the Watchdog studio, getting you ready for an action-packed show today, recapping a lot of things that happened over the last month, getting you ready for, you know what I'm going to say. It's football season. It's hard to believe. When I come back, late June turns into July next week, and football is upon us. We will be having training camps coming up here very, very soon for college and pro, and we're less than 60 days away from college football. We're 8 weeks until week 0 in college football. 10 weeks till NFL opening night, but not that far away from the first preseason game of the NFL, which happens in late July. So we're pretty much there. We're turning the corner. We'll get you caught up on all the ongoings of the NFL and college football offseason. College football, much, much more difficult to track at this point than NFL, where it was not like that in years past, but it is now with this NIL and the way these guys are moving team to team like free agents. It is quite tough to figure out who is who, where are they, what quarterback is where, how many people are leaving this school, how many people are coming in. It's a lot to keep track of, and we will continue to try to break that down over the coming weeks here, get you ready for some futures in pro football and college football. I'm going to talk about some of the ones I like. Before I do deep dives, before we do our conference and division previews, which we do every year here on Bettor's Last Stand, I'll tell you a few, just some gut instinct type bets that I have just right out of the gate, looking at numbers for the first time when I was on vacation, and starting to identify some potential bets that I'm going to be making here in the coming weeks. All right, so I'm not going to take you through everything that we had over the last 7 weeks as far as win-loss goes. All that stuff can be found at BLS_PRP. If you missed the last show, I posted a lot of things while I was gone. Not a ton of stuff, but a lot of AFL, especially AFL, actually, while we were gone. Golf, we actually did all right. Not great in the U.S. Open, but we did have a nice winner with Ben Griffin a few weeks back at the Charles Schwab. He was around 60-1, so hopefully you got on that. That was the last show that we did here on the Watchdog. Cam Young, top 10 at the U.S. Open, like almost $8 there, so that was a good one for us. AFL, we've been 58-40 since the last show, so that's 60%. That's a very strong run for us there. Been posting those picks each and every week. It was nice to take a break from a lot of the other sports that I don't care about, but the AFL I do watch every single week. NASCAR, been around even, not terrible, a little better than we had been performing, but no outright winners here since we last had a show. I had a few top 5s and top 10s that were decent. Nothing really significant in Formula 1. IndyCar, we had a very good Indy 500. Alex Palou, 5-1. Cassius Renus VK, he was 100-1 to win the race, but he finished in the top 10 at a very nice price. Kyle Kirkwood and Santiago Ferrucci, both top 5s in the Indy 500. So those very, very good performances for us. We had UFL, WNBA, CFL. We went 7-4 in those. Soccer, we were 9-9 to finish the English season, and the UEFA Champions League and Europa League seasons 9-9 to close it out. Previously had been very, very strong in soccer. Very good French Open for us. We were up 15 units in the French Open. We had the outright winner in the women's with Coco Golf getting it done at 535 plus 535. Then we also had Sabalenka Golf, a little bit better paying ticket, so we'll take that. But we had Sabalenka and Golf both to win their quarters and to both reach the finals, and they happened to actually both reach the final and play each other. So some good winners there for us. We had Musetti and Djokovic to win their quarters. Both of them did. So very, very good performance in the French Open. We went 8-4 in our match bets. So pretty strong there. If you've been keeping tabs on us, I know this sports, maybe these are sports that people don't care about as much, but value is there, enjoyability is there, and really you're seeing a more pure form of sport if you ask me. So stick with the AFL, with your racing, with your soccer, with your tennis. Much more enjoyable than seeing guys throw tantrums and not run out ground balls like O'Neal Cruz and these professional athletes and these ridiculously overpaid NBA guys. Which we'll talk about here momentarily. Horse racing, recapping that. We had Sovereignty in the Belmont. Belmont Journalism did win the Preakness. Questionable riding there by Rispoli, but he got the job done. Could have been a catastrophe there in Baltimore, but Sovereignty, much the best. Baeza, still a little bit late to mature, but hopefully those three will all match up at the Travers here in the coming weeks in August, and then maybe on to the Breeders' Cup. So kind of put a bow on the horse racing. Our Belmont card that I had on BLS_PRP on the Twitter or X page was kind of affected by all the rain that we got during that time period. They actually moved some of those races. They canceled the pick 5s and 4s. So it was very unfortunate that the Belmont Racing Festival was cut short, but they did run those races on Sunday. It just wasn't quite the same. Sovereignty, though, much the best. Belmont proving again when he sets his sights on a spot to run a horse in that he and Godolphin are absolutely phenomenal. I didn't put these picks up on BLS_PRP because I'm not sure how many people even follow the Royal Ascot meet, but that was another really good meet last week. Saw some really great performances out of some top world-class jockeys and world-class horses there, and it makes you realize that North American horses and horsemen and jockeys and so on and so forth still have trouble living up to the expectations in the rigors of Europe. Royal Ascot, incredible meet as always. Oisin Murphy, phenomenal jockey. Ryan Moore, William Buick. I mean, you had some greats there. Some of the guys from the United States came over from the colony. Rispoli went over there for a ride. Ortiz went over there for a ride. None of them could even hit the board. So it's very tricky. Royal Ascot might be something that I spend a little bit more time on. If I wasn't away, we would have definitely talked about it here on the show. Recapping a few things. NHL and NBA playoffs, of course, came to a close. The Thunder taking down the NBA title, but it wasn't easy. And the Florida Panthers, which could be expected. Wish I was here to talk about that a little bit more. But it was a very impressive performance. They actually could have swept that series. They blew leads in pretty much every game, controlled the series, pretty much demolished Edmonton where they could. So congrats to the Panthers and the Thunder, who made it tough on themselves. They were not clean, but you got to tip your cap to the Indiana Pacers. Unfortunate to see Halliburton go down there when he did. And, I got some numbers that I'll tell you about here in the industry news and notes coming up about the NBA playoffs and some of the things going on there. You got the NBA draft coming up. It was just the other night, if you're listening to this show, on Friday or Thursday, and NBA draft. You got the NHL draft coming up here in a few next week, or maybe this weekend, coming up soon anyway, and then the MLB as well. WNBA and Big Three in full swing right now. Big Three, I haven't got to watch a lot of it yet. Gonna scout out a little bit more there. Maybe have some plays for the show next week. WNBA is interesting right now. You got Caitlin Clark, who's not playing good basketball right now. And a lot of people are afraid to say that, but she's not. She's not playing up to her standards. She had that really good game against the Liberty a few weeks ago when she came back from the injury, but she hasn't played well since then. So that's the question that I have is what is she not quite back to normal yet? I'm not sure. WNBA bets though that I thought were interesting. So you get 8 teams that are going to make the playoffs. And you have kind of a logjam right now. You got Golden State, the Valkyries, the new team, and you got the Washington Mystics. Both of them are still in the playoffs right now. And you have the Aces, the Las Vegas Aces, who have been a perennial power up until last year when they started to show some signs of not being quite as good. But they're out right now. I'm assuming that they're going to get cranking up and make the playoffs. But my point is you can get either Golden State at plus 120 or Washington at plus 115. One of these teams is almost certainly going to make the playoffs. So if you can identify which one of those you like better, I think it's worth a bet. I watched both these teams. I got to say right now, Golden State's probably a little bit better. Mystics have some decent young inside players, and I think they're probably a year away from being pretty good. Golden State got good pretty fast with the expansion franchise. So we'll see. We'll keep eyes on those. I also like the LA Sparks. They're in a little bit of a tailspin right now, but they're going to get some players back here soon. I think over 15.5 wins at minus 120 was something that I was looking at from them. I'll post these, of course, on BLS_PRP, anything I like in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark proved she was definitely pretty valuable to her team. Without her, they were not very good at all. So we'll see how that goes for the rest of the year. WNBA maybe have some plays for next weekend. MLB, here we go. We're almost to the All-Star break. Some teams are really starting to separate. Some other teams are coming back to the pack, and some other teams are making you say, what in the world are they doing? I know a lot of people. I have a different take on this than most people. The Rafael Devers trade from a couple of weeks ago. Well, I guess it's a little bit more than a week ago. Maybe be 2 weeks from Sunday, or a week ago Sunday, whatever it was. But my viewpoint's very different on this, and as you know, I follow Boston pretty closely. I think this is actually a pretty smart trade for the Red Sox. They tied up a lot of money in a guy who is very irritable. And you know what? He's not Mookie Betts. People have compared him to Mookie Betts, and that is a ridiculous comparison. He brings you nothing on the defensive side of things at all. Mookie Betts could play all-star caliber defense at several different positions, and he has. And Mookie Betts can run the bases. Mookie Betts is just a smart player. I agree. Getting rid of Mookie Betts was a massive mistake for the Boston Red Sox. He should have been a centerpiece for them for the next 10 years. Devers, they wasted money on him. I thought the contract they gave him was ridiculous. He was much better when he had protection in that lineup. He does not have that anymore. He has a lot of young guys around him. He's a poor leader, and it was pretty evident that he was just not going to be worth the money they paid him. I don't know why they even thought about paying him that kind of money. Maybe because they were under public pressure, but I don't know when that's ever made people make a good decision. But Devers being traded to the Giants, I get it for the Giants. Probably a smart try for them. They need another bat. They've been trying to get big bats in that lineup for a couple years now. They tried for Ohtani. They tried for Judge. They couldn't get it. Giants are a big market. They really want to win. They have a really rabid fan base, really smart fan base, some of the most intelligent fans in sports, San Francisco Giant fans. And I think it's a perfect fit for them. And I also think it works out well for the Red Sox. So one of these times where I think both teams benefit from this trade. The Red Sox free up a ton of payroll, a ton, and they get back a couple of arms that I'm not really as down about as everybody else. So I've always been a Jordan Hicks guy. I think he's a really good bullpen guy if he can get in the right situation. I think could be an incredible setup man. Two prospects coming back and then the other pitcher that they got, his name escapes me at the moment, but he's a known commodity. But I think it benefits the Red Sox, and I think it benefits the Giants. I think it's a win for both teams. I think Boston will be heavily active here at the trade deadline to add more. They're going to have payroll space now, and I think they add a couple pieces. And I don't think they're that far off the pace right now. They got some really good young players. And they've really, really let them take their time and try to get better and work through this stuff. They're not being quick triggered on. They didn't have them up too fast, although they did send Campbell back down. So that may be a sign that they maybe brought him up a touch too soon. But I think it's going to be good for Boston. I think it's going to be very good for the Giants. If you remember, I gave both these teams out as teams that I thought would make the playoffs for sure. And I'm going to double down on that right now. I think that you can get Boston at a pretty good price right now. They are plus 250 right now to make the playoffs. So I'd say pull the trigger on the Red Sox. I think they're going to make more moves now. I think this gives them flexibility that they did not have earlier, and I think they'll add another bullpen arm and definitely probably try to add a couple of veteran bats as well. The Giants minus 150 to make the playoffs. Still liking that. I'd play it at that number as well. And then the Cincinnati Reds also playing good baseball right now. They're just 2 games out of it at plus 340 to make the playoffs. The Braves at plus 320, 6 games out of the wild card. I think they're live, but Boston's only 2.5 games out of the wild card. I just don't see why everybody's so worried about them. They weren't performing well with Devers, and he's a pain. He strikes out a ton. He's just lazy. He came into the beginning of the season out of shape. I think it was a great trade. As a Red Sox supporter, I would say that's a fantastic move to get him off the books. You can't just fall in love for the good things guys do. How many big home runs has he hit? Keep thinking about it because there's not many of them. Yeah, he's a good offensive player when everything's going right for him, but not worth all the headache and not worth that kind of money for sure. So I'm all in on Boston and the Giants and the Reds and the Braves. I think all those teams have really good shots at getting in the playoffs and making a run. So we'll continue to track that. But I am one of the few who's probably saying this was an all right trade for the Red Sox. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. So they weren't going anywhere just with Devers. He isn't going to be the piece that puts them over the top. For the Giants, they have a good club and a veteran club who's starting to come together very, very nicely. Very good front-end pitching and an incredibly good bullpen. So he is the piece they're missing. Although that park, not going to be easy. He does hit it opposite field, though, so that could help him. But don't think you're going to see a ton of splashdown home runs there. That's a tough place to hit in. Definitely a pitcher's ballpark, no question about it. But baseball, almost to the All-Star break. We are, let's see, what are we? We are July 15th, so we're getting down to about 2 weeks away from the All-Star break. And the Yankees can't be 270 to win the American League. That's to win the American League. That is outrageous. I look at Houston right now, plus 475. Seattle, 9-1. Even Texas, 28-1. Texas, I think, if they're busy at the trade deadline, they need a few guys to do some scenery change. They got to get a couple guys that are stale in that lineup, get them out of there, And I think Texas could be live, and I think Seattle will be in. They were in last year with Arozarena. They got him, and now they got Cal Raleigh, who's smashing the ball. Good frontline pitching. I think Seattle probably a player or two away from being able to be a serious contender in the American League, which is not that great. The American League is up for grabs. You can take the American League. That's why the Yankees are plus 270, because there's nobody better, and they're not playing very well. And their lineup, I'm sorry, it's just not. You can bring Stanton back. If he ever does what he did last fall, I'd be stunned. I just don't see that happening again. So I think you look at Houston. What can you say about Houston? They change out players. They lose Bregman. They get rid of Tucker. I mean, they just keep replenishing. They do a great job developing players. Pitchers, just Hunter Brown's outstanding now. I mean, you got two top-end aces with him and Valdez when they're on their game, and they got new guys contributing to their lineup out of nowhere. So you can't sleep on Houston. They're doing a great job developing players, mixing them in with veterans. So I say Houston, Seattle, and Texas all live still in the American League, along with Boston. So we'll see how that transpires here at the All-Star break, and then pushing towards the trade deadline. Let's switch it over to golf. As we said here on Bettor's Last Stand, we did have we were up 27 units in golf since the last show. We had Ben Griffin at 60-1. Like Ben Griffin again this week at the Rocket Classic. This is up in the Detroit area, Detroit Country Club to be exact. Scores are going to be low here. They're going to be smashing the ball around, probably close to 30 under par. Ben Griffin, 20-1. He'll be a play for me. Cam Young, top 6 here last year, 28-1. Been playing him a lot. Had a nice showing at the U.S. Open. Harry Hall, 34-1 like him. Davis Thompson, he was tied for second here last year at 34-1. Emiliano Grillo, a guy I played a little bit at the U.S. Open. Find him around 70-1. Jake Knapp, a guy we played quite a bit this spring and summer at 70-1. Jesper Svensson is 80-1. We'll be taking a stab with him. And then I thought this was a little bit intriguing. I heard as they start to talk about the Ryder Cup, which approaches in September, Matt Fitzpatrick for the Europeans, he currently well out of the qualification for the Ryder Cup, so he would probably use a good performance. This course could suit him. He's around 40-1, so he may take a small play with him. Again, BLS_PRP. You can find all these golf plays ahead of the tournament on Thursday if you want to go back and get them before the tournament starts. But hey, there's nothing wrong with playing these in play either. A lot of times you can get better prices on guys, so definitely worth a look there. Of course, Scotty Scheffler won the PGA while we were gone. J.J. Spawn upsets in the U.S. Open, just the only guy under par, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought the course was great, and it really tested these guys. And that's the one thing about Scotty Scheffler, and I'm not saying he was awful in that because he wasn't, but Scotty Scheffler definitely is different when the course is really, really tough. When the course is played tough and the scoring is low, he is not nearly the force that he is. Now, you put him on this, like a course like this week, which he's not playing, but you put him on a course like this at Detroit Country Club, and he's going to be impossible to beat almost every week. Although last week he did stumble with that bad triple he had on Saturday, put him out of contention, although he was still hovering around there in the top 5 come Sunday afternoon. So you can never really write him off, I suppose, but the easy courses, he is definitely much more live than he is in a situation like he had at the U.S. Open. That's going to be quite a bit different for sure. But speaking of golf, I thought the Ryder Cup, to me, shaping up very interesting. You got Bethpage Black is where it's going to be played at here in the United States, up in New York. Right now, Europe is plus 150, an underdog. I think it's absurd that they're dogs. Now, I know it's been the team on home soil has seemed to carry it, but the United States is not the team that they were a couple of years ago, with Jordan Spieth on top of his game, Justin Thomas on top of his game, Dustin Johnson on top of his game, Brooks Koepka on top of his game, Bryson DeChambeau on top of his game. And there's 5 guys right there, and DeChambeau's kind of still top level. Koepka's starting to round back into form, but the other guys, Ricky Fowler, I mean, none of those guys are top of their game at all, even close right now. So I think you got quite a problem here. You got Rory McIlroy, who I do not like, and I think he's a fraud, and I think he's a clown, and the way he behaves lately has just been awful to see. But can't say I didn't tell you so. But he will be, he, Tommy Fleetwood, Terrell Hatton, Robert McIntyre, Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka. I mean, that's a pretty good top 6 guys right there. And then you got Rasmus Højgaard, you got Ludvig Aber, who's one of the up-and-coming players in the world. You got Justin Rose, you got Victor Hovland. I mean, you have a lot of guys in the Euro side that are playing a little bit higher caliber golf currently than the United States. So I think Euro at plus 5 or plus 150 makes a lot of sense for the Ryder Cup. Well, obviously, it's hard to nail it down until you are certain of the teams. But right now, if you got a gun to my head, it's going to be Europe right now. Not that I'm saying I'm rooting for them, but that plus money just seems to make a lot of sense to me. Football, obviously, coming up very, very fast here on Bettor's Last Stand, and we'll talk tons and tons and tons about football. You know that, whether I like it or not, the time is coming. That's what people want to hear about. We were really good on our NFL picks, and I don't have my numbers of what we actually were last year, but our NFL futures last year were exquisite. That was one of the best things that we did last year, so hopefully we can duplicate that. But I do have some early bets that I went through the NFL card, or the futures book, and started to look at various prices and win totals and things of that nature. And just naked eye, gut instinct, what I know about what's going on with these teams in the offseason, where they stand, what their situations are player-wise, coach-wise, whatever, division, schedule, looked at all that stuff, but I didn't do a deep dive into it. Obviously, I'm going to do that when we preview each division, as we'll take you through each and every division. I'll give you the picks of who I think is going to win a division and some best bets in that division. We'll give you out all those. And again, I'll have all these on BLS_PRP, so you can comprehensively go back and find them from right now here in late June on until August or even September in some cases. So let's start you off with some of the plays that I like in the NFL early on. Just, again, this is the first look, a little bit of a dive, not a massive deep dive yet here as you listen to Bettor's Last Stand on the Watchdog Network, show number 132, as we return for the final week of June into July. And then before we know it, here we go. Footballs are kicking off in the air. We'll have high school football here on the Watchdog, college football with the Mountaineers, back with Rich Rod, and of course Cleveland Browns football can hear it all right here on the Watchdog Network, watchdognetwork.com. So we'll be having that schedule releasing out here in the coming weeks. It will be on you quickly, so get ready. But here's some of the plays that I have in the NFL so far that I am going to be putting into action. It's going to shop around for the best prices. Kind of found what I like, but we're going to go with it here soon. LA Rams over 9.5 wins. Strong team. Like the coach. The coach has grown on me quite a bit, and I think that the LA Rams are set for a very, very good season. I think that they could surprise some people. I don't know how they could surprise some people. They've done a great job drafting. They got a good quarterback. They got a good coach. And, I think 9.5 wins is definitely gettable for them. So I think they win at least 10. I like them to actually win that division as well. Dallas over 7.5. Total's a little low. I've been off Dallas train for a long time now. I do not trust them. I'm a little worried about the coach. But they got offensive playmakers now. They have 2 elite wide receivers and a quarterback who's very good statistically. They'll beat a lot of the mediocre teams in the league. So 8 wins to me, more than achievable for the Dallas Cowboys. Do I think they're great? No. Do I think they'll win 8 games? Yes. Cleveland over 4.5. Can hear them right here on the Watchdog Network. That's way too low of a total. Cleveland's roster isn't incredibly different than it was last year. Now, I know they're not certain about their quarterback situation, but that's okay. They got veterans. If they want to turn it over to a young person at some point, then fine. But 4.5, come on. I mean, really? Are we worried about the Steelers? Are we worried about Cincinnati? I know a lot of people are. I still can't get over that. It's one of the biggest misconceptions in all of sports is that the Cincinnati Bengals are serious Super Bowl contenders. That, along with the Denver Broncos, which are getting a massive amount of steam, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. But I think Cleveland wins at least 5 ball games. I have no problem playing that win total over 4.5. Chicago, I was off of them last year. Their win total was drifting up to like 9.5 at one point, but now it's down to 7.5. And do I think the Bears are great? No. Do I trust them in every facet? No, but they got a new coach. I think the offense is very loaded with talent. They should be able to take some steps. Caleb Williams, you figure, should be able to mature and grow a little bit into his spot with Ben Johnson taking over. So I like the Bears. I think the Bears will win 8 or 9 games this year. I'm not saying that they're fantastic. It's a tricky division, but I do think they'll win 8 games. New Orleans under 5.5, probably tanking for Arch Manning from what it sounds like. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but under 5.5 for the New Orleans Saints. They don't look to be very competitive in any facet of the game. Cincinnati under 10.5. Once again, we're going to keep cashing this ticket. We've cashed it the last 3 years. We'll continue to do it this year. 10.5 is outrageous for this team. They have no defense whatsoever. They have a stat compiling quarterback who doesn't know how to control a game. And they lose a lot of games, and they have a really bad coach. And I just there's nothing different about it. They got the same coach, they got the same quarterback, they got the same overpaid guys on offense. I can't say Jamar Chase is overpaid, though. He is the best player on offense in the entire league, in my opinion. The very, very best. If I had one player to pick on offense right now, even if you said exclude quarterbacks, but even if you included quarterbacks, I would start my team offensively with Jamar Chase. He is the best wide receiver in the league, and I don't even think there's a close second. So remember that too whenever Joe Burrow ever doesn't have him at his disposal. That's the only reason this guy even puts up the stats he puts up, and he doesn't play winning football. So anyway, down on Cincinnati, I don't understand the love affair with this team. Same coach, same bad defense. They get Al Golden, whoop-dee. I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong one of these years, but we haven't been wrong for a while about Cincinnati, and I don't think we will be this year. Vikings to make the playoffs, plus 110. Trevor McCarthy, or is that his name? J.J. McCarthy. Trevor McCarthy's a jockey. Horse racing on the mind. J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. I thought he was going to be good, a good pro in college. He just looked like a kind of a guy that was pro. He's got a good coaching staff here. It's tough to bet on a rookie, though. Even though he's not a rookie, he's really going to be a rookie because he didn't play at all last year because he was hurt. But plus 110 to make the playoffs for the Vikings, I think that's gettable. Thought that price made sense. Minus 140 on the Baltimore Ravens to win the AFC North. I think they're far and away the best team in that division. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan, but Steelers got issues. Bengals, as I just said, have issues. And obviously the Browns, even if they win 5 games, that's still not going to put them in a position where they can win the division. I think the Ravens' schedule sets up well for them. I think they definitely win the AFC North, barring injuries, of course, to Lamar Jackson and or Derrick Henry. As I said earlier, I like the Rams plus 180 to win the NFC West. San Francisco probably have a little bit better luck than they did last year, so I think they'll be in the mix, but still not certain about them. They're a little bit old, and I don't know. The quarterback still, to me, is a little bit of a question. All right, some player props now we got for the NFL here. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 132 here on the Watchdog Network, bringing you into your final full week of June, or final June weekend. I guess by next weekend it'll be July. But getting you ready for football season. Those are the plays that I had win total wise and to make the playoffs for teams. Now I got a few that we like player prop wise, player prop wise, that is. And you can find all these on BLS_PRP. Drake May of the New England Patriots, over 2.5 rushing touchdowns. This guy can run. This guy's a good runner, and he's kind of a thick dude, so he's got some wide shoulders. I can see him sneaking. I can see them doing their version of the brotherly shove, tush, push, whatever you want to call it. I'm really sick of talking about that thing, but he's a big boy, and I think they could do their own little version of that down by the goal line. I think they'll move the ball. Vrabel's going to want to play tough. I like Drake May to score at least 3 rushing touchdowns. I think he could have 2 in one game at one point. So I thought that was ridiculous at minus 105. He showed some ability to run last year, which I liked quite a bit. Tank Bigsby over 4.5 rushing touchdowns at even money. I think he is the guy for Jacksonville. I think he'll play quite a bit. Now, one guy I couldn't find anything on, but the word is he's going to be taking a lot of carries, is Jordan Mason for the Vikings. Word's out on him. I can't find any numbers anywhere, so I'm going to try to look for him over rushing touchdowns, but I got to see what that number is, so we'll keep you posted on that one. Kenneth Walker over 850.5 yards for the Seattle Seahawks. I like that one at minus 105. I think he's going to get well over 1,000 yards this year, as the Seattle's going to run the ball quite a bit. Brian Thomas to lead the league in receiving yards at 12-1. I think he's a guy who was right on the verge of breaking out last year. He's a very talented receiver, so I thought 12-1 on him made quite a bit of sense. So we'll take a shot with Brian Thomas to lead the league. Again, BLS_PRP. I have all these up. Let's switch over to college right now. College football. This is tough, man. It's really hard to find teams' rosters and who's in, who's out. I mean, these things are changing even up to the minute here. And with NIL, anything can happen. So tread lightly with these college football futures. They're a little bit tricky, but there's a few that I thought were decent so far. Southern Miss has an influx of Marshall transfers. Their coach comes over from Marshall. He brought half the roster with him. A very good Marshall team from last year will now turn into a very good Southern Miss team this year. 4.5 wins. That's a little bit low. Conference is not great. So I played Southern Miss over 4.5 wins and over an alternate line of 5.5 wins. So look for the Southern Miss Golden Eagles to have a bounce-back year where they win at least 6 ball games. Could be a contender in that conference. Marshall, on the other side of that, lost almost their entire roster, coaching staff, everything. Under 5.5 for Marshall at -125, I think makes a lot of sense there for the Herd. Could be a very, very down year for them. California lost their quarterback. They've lost several other key players. This was a team we were high on last year. They just couldn't move the ball very well. Good defense. But Cal, I think, will be up against it this year. We're going to go under 5.5. ACC, I don't know what to make of the league. It's probably not going to be very good, but Cal, I think, will struggle to win 6 games. And then Alabama, 9.5. I even found some flat 9s out there. So if you can find a flat 9, take that. I think they're getting slept on a little bit. They got snubbed from the playoff last year, I thought, and I think they're going to be kind of ticked off. So I think the Crimson Tide at 9 wins or over 9.5, I think they'll win at least 10 ball games, and you can find that at even money. So that's a pretty good price there for a good program in Alabama. And I know it's not the Nick Saban program of Alabama, but still a formidable recruiting block. They got money, they got resources. So Alabama, I expect to have a little bit better of a season this year with Kalen DeBoer at the helm for his second year. All right, rolling along here. Bettor's Last Stand show number 132 here on the Watchdog Network from the Watchdog Pine Room Studios in downtown Wheeling. I only had one bad beat because I haven't been following things as tightly. Plus, you only really got baseball. You can look on a game every single day of the week and find a bad beat somewhere, whether it's first 5, player props wise or game wise, whatever. 1-1 going into the 10th inning and the game ends up 9-8. You see that stuff every day. But Pacers fans, if you had Halliburton and you had the Pacers, when Halliburton went down in that game 7, I mean, they were right there. They had Oklahoma City a little bit nervous. So I think that game could have turned out a little bit different. Perhaps Indiana at least covers the spread, and you never know what could have happened there had Halliburton not gotten hurt. So tough one there. You roll the dice. You know he had a calf issue. You know that leads to Achilles issues. They roll the dice. Game 7, he may never be there. Halliburton may never be the same again. So tough one there for Indiana Pacers fans. Definitely a bad beat by far. NBA, NHL, MLB drafts, of course, said approaching. You had the NBA one just the other night. Cooper Flagg, -100,000 to be the top pick by Dallas, which, of course, we talked about here on the radio about how rigged that was. Trade away Luka Doncic, and now you're going to get Cooper Flagg as a freebie. And jeez, what a corrupt league the NBA is. Celtics, they make some trades. They freed up a ton of money in the last couple of days. Kevin Durant went to Houston. You have a lot of things going on here in the NBA and more trades coming in the next day or two. Bettor in Ohio. How about this sweat? Bet $8 million on the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the NBA Finals. And you bet that right at the beginning of the series at -$7. Like, that's an absurd. Actually, that had to be midway through the series. Maybe not. Maybe it was the original price. I feel like I was a little bit high, but -$7 nonetheless for the Thunder to win that series. He won back $1.14 million. Now that's great, but you wagered $8 million. So if you were to have lost that $8 million, which if Halliburton doesn't get hurt, you may well have. That isn't just a ridiculous decision. Don't do things like that. And not that you have $8 million to throw around. But if you're doing things like that, that's just asking to lose. What a terrible sweat that must have been, and what a relief if the guy survived it. Thunder finished the season 66-35 and 4 ATS, 65.3%. Very, very impressive, although they really struggled to cover on the road in the playoffs. Thunder, again, the favorites next year at +240. That's a little low. Rockets all the way down to 8-1 after getting 37-year-old Kevin Durant, followed by the Cavs and Knicks at 8 and 9-1. The Lakers are going to sell for $10 billion. Oh, my goodness. What a return on investment for the Buss family. New proposal from the NCAA Division I Management Council would allow college athletes, coaches, and staffers to wager on pro sports without penalty currently, and they're not permitted to do that. There is some opposition to the bill, so I wouldn't count that in quite yet as the NCAA continues to make a mockery of itself. Now, I'm fine with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as the stuff is governed and watched, I see nothing wrong with that. Panthers open as a 6-1 favorite to win the Stanley Cup next year, followed by Edmonton at +750. Now that's Connor McDavid pending. He's entering the last year of his contract. Lots of steam that he ends up in Toronto right now. Wow, wouldn't that be something? I don't know what Edmonton could get back to make that good, but boy, the pressure on Toronto if they were to get him, and the pressure on him would mount. He is from that area. That would be a very, very interesting turn of events. So will Connor McDavid stay? I don't know. I think he could be on the move. NFL Futures Steam, we talked about it. We are 10 weeks away from opening night in the NFL. And teams right now who I had to get off of. Now, these are a couple of these teams we were on last year. We were on the Panthers last year. We were on the Cardinals a little bit last year. Bengals we were against. And the Broncos we were against. Now, we were wrong on the Broncos. The other ones we were all right on. New England Patriots taking a ton of steam. Bets on their over. Bets on them to make the playoffs, to win the division. Carolina Panthers, same thing. Now Bryce Young got a lot better, and I'm a backer, but now their win total's a little too high for me, so I got to stay off of that. I think it'll be right around what they win, but not going to take a shot. Cardinals taking a lot of steam too. People loving the Arizona Cardinals. So another team, again, I'm not against them. It's just they're starting to get way too much public action. Bengals don't get it. Broncos don't get it. I hear respected people I respect in this business telling me the Broncos are going to have a shot of winning the AFC West and making it to the Super Bowl. I don't see that at all. I think their coach and their quarterback lack immensely. Defensively, very good roster. Offensively, I'm not impressed with anything they have on offense. Not anything. Not their running backs, not their wide receivers, not their quarterback, and not their coach. So that's where I draw the line. Good team on defense. Not a great team overall, in my opinion. Patriots, Mike Vrabel comes in. As I said, I like Drake May. I think he'll have a good season. He was a guy I was wrong about. I'll be the first to admit. I did not expect him to have a good year last year. He was very impressive to me. In New England, while I think they will be improved, they're going to have to get over a few humps, and it's not always going to be easy. Although I will say Miami, and I don't know about Buffalo. I know everybody's on Buffalo too, but Josh Allen's awesome, and he's the rightful MVP, but I don't know. I don't know how good Buffalo is, but I know the Dolphins aren't very good. We know the Jets aren't very good. So that could open the door for New England. Can they win 6 or 7 games? That is the question. But those are teams that are taking a lot of play so far in the NFL preseason, at least off-season, whatever you want to call it, as we lead up to the opening weeks of the preseason and on to the 8 weeks away from opening night, or 10 weeks away, 8 weeks until college football week number 0. All right, let's flip over to the racing circuit right now. IndyCar is off until next week, where they'll be at Mid-Ohio. NASCAR will be at Atlanta here on Saturday night. Chase Briscoe won at Pocono. F1 will be in Austria at Spielberg to run the Austrian Grand Prix. George Russell gets the win in Montreal. Let's talk a little bit about Formula One right now. Again, George Russell, I will say, stock up on Mercedes right now, as they appear to be trending in the right direction. Will they continue to have speed that they had at Montreal? I don't know, but I don't see why not. George Russell was very fast here last year. He won this race. He led 8 laps. Max Verstappen did lead the most laps at 62, but Russell led 8. And if I remember correctly in this race, it was a strategy race, and they kept Russell out. He off-sequenced pits with Verstappen, and they thought that he would have to stop again, and he ended up making it to the end. So really good strategy there. They got the job done. Mercedes double top 6 to me, plus 105. I will tell you that Kimi Antonelli has been really good. He got his first podium last week. I was very high on this guy at the beginning of the season. He's a really good racer. Incredibly impressed. Obviously, Piastri and Lando Norris, the guys to beat, plus 175 and plus 225. But we also told you that Piastri would end up being the better McLaren driver, and he's starting to separate himself. Max Verstappen coming in at plus 350. George Russell at plus 650. So I'm going to be on the Mercedes a little bit here. I'm going to see how they qualify, but I think the Mercedes, the double top 6, could be good at plus 105. Antonelli to be in the top 6 at minus 110. I think if you think Antonelli is going to be in the top 6, I think you feel that Russell would be too. So the double top 6 at plus 105 makes quite a bit of sense. I'll have all my F1 picks on BLS_PRP as usual once we see how they qualify, because obviously that's such a massive part of things. Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of the other super speedways here, a little different, not quite the banking, but nonetheless drafting will be at a premium this week. Prices are reduced here, so you got some guys who probably would be like 120 to 1, but they're down to 50 and 40 to 1. So let's see who we like here. I got to say, when I was going through this, the Hendrick cars stood out to me here at Atlanta. Obviously, Ryan Blaney, really, really good here. He's 8 to 1. He is one of the favorites, along with Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, both at 9 to 1. Blaney's had a great run here in Atlanta as a 9.6 average, which is fantastic. He was 4th here in the spring race. Yes, this is the second time we've been to Atlanta already this season. So we had one back in February. It seems like just a few weeks ago, and now we're back in Atlanta once again. And the spring race was run by Chris Bell. That was in that run where he won 3 straight races. He is 16 to 1 here. Probably be going against him, but I can't completely rule him out. He's gotten better on these super speedways. William Byron at 14 to 1 made a lot of sense to me. Chase Elliott at 16 to 1, both very strong contenders. And also thought the other Hendrick car of Alex Bowman, who had a good finish last week, starting to get a little momentum back after his bad crash and his bad run. He's 25-1. He's had some good success here in the past. I thought Cindric was a little too low, so I can't play him. Brad Keselowski's got 2 wins here, a 16.3 average. He is 14-1. I'll be taking a shot with him as well. Ross Chastain at 22-1 will also be on my card. Longest shot that I had, Ricky Stenhouse, 40-1. I think he is a strong contender here. He was 5th in the spring. But I can't talk you off of Justin Haley, Todd Gilliland, both at 60 and 40-1. Both those guys should have a good run. And Ryan Preece at 50-1. Ryan Preece, very good plate racer, super speedway racer. He's had a great season. He's even at the intermediates. He had a good finish again last week. So Ryan Preece on the RFK team. One guy that I thought was strange, Chris Buescher, 20-1. He's not had good success in Atlanta. Been very good at a lot of tracks like this, but not Atlanta. So be passing on him this week. Kyle Busch taking some steam too. He's 12-1. Thought that was a little bit low for him. So Byron, Elliott, Chastain, Keselowski, Bowman, and Stenhouse. The main plays there. Also probably add Preece, Haley, and Gilliland to the portfolio there for the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta. Chris Bell won it. Carson Hocevar was second. Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse, the top 5. Denny Hamlin, who was second last week, was 6th. Kyle Busch was 7th. Ross Chastain was 8th. Bubba Wallace 9th. And John Hunter Nemechek, who ran well last week, was 10th. So those are our plays for NASCAR at Atlanta this week. Again, Saturday night, so don't forget about that. Don't be getting up Sunday morning and thinking that you have a whole big rundown of NASCAR to go over, because it's Saturday night this week, so keep an eye on that one. All right, Australian rules football here on BLS, Bettor's Last Stand, show 132 here on the Watchdog Network. We were 58-40 over the last few weeks since we last had a show, 60%. Not as good as I hoped, but still good. Turning a profit there, so we'll always take that. Round number 16 coming your way now. Again, all these up on BLS_PRP, so the Thursday one you probably won't get because it was too early. So we'll start you out with a Friday, an early Friday. It's the Sydney Swans hosting the Western Bulldogs. Western minus 8.5 on the road, a total 171.5. Western's been scoring pretty well, but this is a little bit better team that they're playing this week. I'm going with Sydney plus the 8.5 at home and over 171.5. Melbourne Demons and the Gold Coast Suns. Melbourne coming in 5-9. Gold Coast at 8-5. Last 3 between these two have went over the total. Both teams have lost 3 in a row, so something's got to give here, although we could have a tie, I guess. The away team in this fixture, 5-0 in the last 5. So some interesting stuff here. You got Gold Coast minus 17.5, the total 172.5. I'm going to go against the trend here. We're going to go with Gold Coast minus the 17.5 at home. Melbourne just doesn't have it much this year. I didn't really like anything on the total. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do there, so we're just going to take a pass. North Melbourne at Hawthorn, a late Friday night matchup. It'll be the Kangaroos 4-8-1 and the Hawks 9-5. Hawks have won 2 straight after a couple of bumps in the road where they played up against some of the better teams and they could not get the job done. North Melbourne off a big win last week over Carlton, which is a nice win for them. They're 31.5 point dog. But I like this game under the 157.5. We'll go under 157.5. North Melbourne, as we said earlier in the season, they're playing a lot better, and they're scrappy. But Hawthorn, this could be one of these games where Hawthorn just stymies them. They got a pretty good defense. So we'll go under with the Hawks and the Kangaroos. Saturday morning, 5:35 a.m., Collingwood, best team in the league, 12-2, hosts the worst team in the league, the West Coast Eagles. Absolutely atrocious. Collingwood minus 60.5, total 172.5. We'll go with the Magpies minus the 60.5. They could win this game by 100. I think this game stays under 2. I think West Coast has a hard time getting to 40 in this game. So the Magpies roll, and we keep that game under. It'll be the Adelaide Crows at the Richmond Tigers. Richmond, of course, scrappy at home, as we said many times here on the show. They come in 3-11. 9-5 are the Crows. Crows minus 37.5 on the road. I'm leaning Richmond here, but Adelaide's played pretty well. They've beat the bad teams pretty good, but this Richmond, like I say, very, very different team at home. So small lean to Richmond there, but I like the over 174.5. Richmond scores points, and that's at home they do. They score a lot of points at home. The Crows score points anywhere and can give up some points. So go over 174.5 in that one on late on Saturday night. And then early Sunday morning, 3:10 a.m., it'll be St. Kilda at Fremantle. Fremantle minus 22.5. Total 165.5. Fremantle's won 5 in a row. They've not played a great schedule. I don't know how they keep doing it. I'm not impressed with this team at all. I'll be looking to fade them heavily when they play up against one of the better teams in the ladder. But St. Kilda's not one of those. 5-9. They've really struggled. They were a team that was playing overs early in the season and actually had some scoring punch, but they have not had that lately. So we're going to go with the 9-5 Frio Dockers, minus 22.5, and the total under 165.5. I think St. Kilda finds it very, very tough to score points this week. Those are our AFL plays here on Bettor's Last Stand. Here on the Watchdog Network, again, BLS_PRP, you can find all of those. Soccer, the club season has come to an end. Probably a lot of people are happy about that, but I'm not as happy. I think that it's kind of depressing. You get the Club World Cup going on right now, which is not something that I love. I've watched some of it. I've followed some of it. I just don't know the motivations. Will Real Madrid, PSG probably going to be the teams who end up coming out in that and winning it. I may have some plays that I'll put up, but not really able to gauge the interest factor of the Club World Cup. So not a lot on that one. CONCACAF Gold Cup as well going on, but I'm focusing on the Women's Euros, which is starting up next week. This will be in, I don't know if it's in Switzerland or Austria. It's somewhere in Central Europe. And the favorites here are Spain. Now, Spain, to me, they're the team to beat. But I think that you have to figure, we got to look through this and say which teams have the most likely groups that you can win. So that's where you got to look. You got to start and say, okay, this team's in this group, and I think that they can advance out of that, because that's where it all begins for me. So Group A, you got Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland. And I will tell you about that group is that none of those teams are going to win this thing. And Switzerland is probably your best team in that group, and they're 28-1 to win this tournament. Norway, probably around the same, around 30-1 or so. And then you got Iceland and Finland, not really perennial powers by any means. Finland especially, they're going to be several 100-1 to win this tournament. Iceland, they're an improving program. So I would say if I was going to take a shot on anybody in that group, it may be Iceland. Again, I'll post all these at BLS_PRP. I'm leaning Iceland to win that group, but Switzerland probably the team to be in that. But that's a very weak group. Whoever comes out of that group, even if you're a second-place team in one of these other groups and you got to play that, you're going to have a very favorable matchup. Group B, Belgium, Italy, Portugal, Spain. Now, I think Spain, who is the favorite here, and they're very, very good. And are they the most likely winner? Probably they are. They get a couple of players back who were injured in the last go-around of the World Cup for them, so that's a huge lift for them. But you got to figure in now that Portugal, much improving country as far as women's soccer goes, not great by any means. So that could be, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be a very tough out. Italy, pretty good, not great, but a team that could possibly be a little bit of a thorn to Spain. And then you got Belgium, similar to Italy, probably maybe right in between. I don't know. Maybe perhaps Belgium is not quite as good as Portugal, but very, very favorable group for Spain. Not terrible, but favorable. They're going to win that group, so you got to figure that's going to help them quite a bit. They come into this thing 2-1 to win the whole tournament. So you figure Spain's coming out of that for sure. Denmark, Germany, Poland, Sweden. Germany's the team to beat in that one. Sweden, not nearly as good as they have been back when they had the rivalry with the United States. They're 14-1 to win this. Germany's at 5-1. I like the Germans. I think the Germans can be very dangerous. They were a team that I was on quite a bit in the last women's major tournament, which was the World Cup 2 years ago. So I'll be on Germany to win that group, and maybe a slight lean that maybe Denmark can edge out Sweden, but not really sure about that. Denmark has some issues with some of their personnel, so it could be troublesome. So Germany and Spain look like they're easily going to get through the group. And as I said in Group A, that's not really that's a very weak group. England, France, Netherlands, Wales. Tough one there. Tough group. So England, a lot of people on England for this tournament. England, the second choice at 4-1. I don't like that. I think England is very susceptible here. I think England could not even make it out of the group stage. Now, is that likely? No. But it is possible. France and the Netherlands, both. France, very improving. They're 5-1. They're the fourth choice. They've gotten a lot better since the last tournament. You can see they're starting to figure it out as their men's program did many, many years ago. So France, women on the right track. They could be a problem for England. And the Netherlands, who have won this tournament before. Now, they've changed the guard quite a bit. Lika Martens and some of these girls are out of there now. Vivian Miedema is back, so she's one of the better goal scorers in the entire world. So Netherlands still not dead. They got a good influx of young players. So it's 16-1. The Netherlands could be a team that could be a little bit of a dark horse there if they could get past France and England. So those are some teams that I'm looking at right now. Is the most likely winner going to be Spain? Possibly, but I think Germany might have a little bit easier trip through, but we'll see. So I'll be on the Germans. I'm probably going to be on the Dutch to at least advance out of that group. You should be able to get a plus price on that. I'll have that posted. And I'm probably going to take a shot with Iceland to advance into the knockout stage as well in group letter A, which is a pretty weak group. So we'll have all those posted at BLS_PRP, all my official picks. Maybe I'll have a golden boot pick or two on there as well before this tournament starts off, I believe, Wednesday in the afternoon over in Europe. So good stuff there. Excited to have that, and also excited to stay in Europe as we finish out the show with Wimbledon, the third major on the tennis calendar. We did very, very well in the French Open a few weeks ago, and now it's grass court season here, and we focus on Wimbledon. And you have to say, what a match. If you didn't see it, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner in the French Open, incredible triple break point for Sinner. People probably turned the match off, and somehow, some way, Alcaraz gets it back, evens it up, wins the set, wins the fifth. Incredible, one of the best matches you will ever see, and it's maybe the new changing of the guard of the two top performers in men's tennis. So, rightfully so, Alcaraz is going to be the favorite in this tournament, about plus 130. Sinner not far behind at plus 165. I believe Sinner will be. Now, the draw hasn't come out yet, so it's hard for me to play these definitively, but I can kind of give you the idea of where I'm going to be going. Again, BLS_PRP. We'll have them all there. Sinner going to be the number one seed in this tournament, but he's not going to be the number one on the odds board. Novak Djokovic will be the third choice at plus 450. And I tell you, I think if he's going to win another major, it might be this one. This might be the one for him. This surface, he's extremely good on this. It doesn't eat his body up the way the other ones do. I think Novak, who ironically has not played since his semifinal exit at Roland Garros, has not played since then. So to me, that tells me he's resting the body. He's getting ready. He knows he doesn't need to practice on grass and need all these lead-up tournaments like most of these people would need. He doesn't need that. He feels that good about his game. So that, to me, a very, very positive sign. For some players, that would not be a positive sign, but for him, I would say it is. And then you drop down to Jack Draper, the home crowd favorite there. He's a Brit, and he is 8-1. I won't have a whole lot of faith in him. Alexander Zverev played very well here in the past. It's been okay in the grass. He's had a couple of losses so far, but far into the tournaments of the grass court season. I think Daniil Medvedev beat him one time so far here on the grass, and somebody else beat Taylor Fritz, the American, actually impressively beat him the other day in Stuttgart. So again, I would imagine that Zverev, who is a savvy vet at this point, and he's just so close to taking down one of these majors. He's really good. He's just like a half a cut below the top level guys. He's so close. I think he's just kind of getting his game ready for this tournament for a big, big run at Wimbledon. On Alexander Bublik, who has been really, really hot lately. He just beat Jannik Sinner, and he made it to the round of 32 here last year. He's playing really well on the grass so far to start the season. He's 29-1. Daniil Medvedev's playing pretty well on grass, and he beat Zverev, as I said, but I don't know if grass is really going to suit him. He's just always been a better hardcourt player. Lorenzo Mazzetti, we had him cash some tickets on him for the French Open. He's going to be, I believe, your 7th seed. He made it to the semis here at Wimbledon last year, but he's had no lead up on grass, which is interesting to me. So if it's the same route as Djokovic is taken, okay, I trust Djokovic. He's played 9 million grass courts. Mazzetti, not as many. But that tells me he thinks his game's pretty solid. So maybe he could be a guy that could make a deep run. Holger Rune, going to be probably the 8th seed in this tournament. He made the round of 16 last year. He's 35-1. And that's kind of where it ends for me. I thought one decent dark horse for the men, Yuri Lehecka. He lost in the final at the Queen's Club to Alcaraz, which was very, very impressive. He pushed him pretty hard. I think he lost 6-4, 6-4. So a very good showing there. He's 50-1, and I'm not saying that he's going to win this tournament, but could he make it to the quarters? Yeah, Could he win a quarter? I don't know. We got to see where he gets matched. So that's the important part. Probably going to be on Alcaraz to win his quarter almost certainly. And I'm going to probably be on Djokovic. I'm going to see which one he's in. You might get a plus price on him depending on where he's paired at. Zverev, another guy that I'll be eyeing up to potentially win their quarter. Not sure about Sinner's game right now. I am not a Jack Draper guy, and I could maybe take a shot with Bublik depending on his matchups. Again, I'll have all these posted at BLS_PRP. Roberto Bautista Agut and Alex Mickelson, if they are to qualify for this, they could be guys that I eye to at least maybe make it to the round of 32, round of 16. Could find some plus prices on them. Shifting over to the women's Wimbledon draw, which we don't have the actual draws yet. So they break these down into 4 quarters, and then you have your favorites in each quarter, and that's usually what we focus on, and then take it out to see who can win it all. Sabalenka, of course, the favorite. She is number 1 in the world at plus 275. Greatly improved on the grass, but she's not, unbeatable on grass. No, this definitely not. So she is she's the best player in the world, no doubt about it, on all the surfaces right now, and you have to be impressed with how she has adjusted her game so much to be able to win on grass and clay, things that she was never able to do before. And that is really a testament to how good her game has gotten. The girl we want to keep an eye on here is Marketa Vondrousova. If you remember her, she won this tournament not last year, 2 years ago. She beat Ons Jabeur, and she's a bit of an unknown, but really, really good grass court player. Then she completely lost her game, completely lost it. Knocked out in the first round last year, but she just won a lead-up tournament where she played very, very well. She's 10-1 here. She's 5-0 on grass. I found actually 10-1, but I've also found some 14-1 on her too. So that's what I have her at, 14-1. 5-0 on grass this year. Very, very great start to the season. She upset Sabalenka in Berlin, so maybe a rematch of those two, depending on what quarter these girls draw into, is going to be very, very important. Mira Andreeva, she had a very good run here at Wimbledon 2 years ago. Also stunned in the first round last year here. She's not going to be happy about that. She's going to want to build herself back up. She had a very, very good year, and I think that she's going to be a definite contender. Mira, it comes in at 13-1, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on her. She is at some point going to be number 1 in the world. I thought this bet was interesting. The field versus Sabalenka, Goff, and Swiatek. Now, we talked about Sabalenka, very, very good player all around right now, has improved her game a ton. Is she the girl to beat here? Yes, just because of her pure power and how she's gotten better. Coco Gauff has not been good on grass recently, and I think she's going to be a little bit of a hangover from her big win at Roland Garros. Not sure she's totally focused here on this one. She got her Grand Slam for this year. Maybe she wants to wait and go focus all out for the U.S. Open. Iga Swiatek, who had been number 1 in the world, but prior to her little doping scheme, which is just terrible, 8-1 on her. I just don't think she can win this. I think there's too many other girls playing better than her right now. She's got a lot of distractions, and I don't love her price, and her game is just not what it was. So I thought it -140, the field versus those three. I think somebody else can win this. And somebody else other than Marketa Vondrousova, who I have my eye on, is Elena Rybakina, who's had some really, really good success here at Wimbledon in the past. And I think that she made it to semis last year. She lost in the semis in Berlin. So she's playing good. She's got some grass wins this year. Her game is coming back to where she was 2 years ago when she won I think she won one major and made it to finals of the other. So her game rounding into form. So Rybakina at north of 5-1. I'll be taking a shot on her. And as I said, Vondrousova at 14-1 and Mira Andreeva at 13-1. Those will be players that I'm going to be focusing in on to win their quarters and to advance pretty far in this tournament. A lot of steam on Madison Keys, 16-1. The American playing pretty well. Just not sure she's quite good enough to win this. Some of these girls playing at very, very high levels. But hey, she's got a good serve. When the ball slows down, though, is a problem for her, which can happen on the grass. Jasmine Paolini, she made the finals last year. She's 30-1. The Italian scrappy girl could play a spoiler role here. She's probably going to be in the 4th or 5th seed here. Jessie Pegula, 35-1. She's not going to be good enough to beat these other girls. She's just not. So I can't play her to win a quarter. I just don't think she can make it out. She just has such a hard trip in front of her. Everything has to line up perfect. Emma Navarro, big matchup with Pegula for her tomorrow in one of these precursor matches. So we'll see how that one turns out between Navarro. She was in the quarters last year. You can find her at 40-1. Svitolina's played very good tennis this year. She's at 40-1. So she's worth a peek. Karolina Makova, game's not back yet. Maybe by the time U.S. Open rolls around, she's 40-1. Really like her, but her game is just not back. She's not back from her injury yet. Barbara Krejcikova, who won it last year, who had won a previous Grand Slam as well, I believe, on clay. She's a 50-1. She hasn't been in great form, and she hasn't played much on the grass at all leading up to that. Is that good or bad? Paula Badosa, 50-1. She just pulled out with an injury recently on another tournament. I wouldn't take a shot with her. Diana Schneider, the young Russian, she took Vondrousova to 3 sets. She's around, you can find her like 80-1. So perhaps maybe her to make the round of 16, something like that. If you get a plus price on Diana Schneider, might be worth it. Also in the mix is Diana Yastremska. And she made it to the Nottingham final and played really well here last year. She's 100-1. So another girl that maybe to keep an eye on there. Yastremska along with Schneider. But we're focusing on Vondrousova, Andreeva, Rybakina. And if I can find a north of 3-1 on Sabalenka and I look at her draw and I like it, we might take a shot with her just because I think she's overall the best player. But that's kind of how things shake down here for Wimbledon beginning next week. So we're excited about that for sure. I'll have all these plays on BLS_PRP. And that's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in to Bettor's Last Stand, show number 132 here on the Watchdog Network. Plenty more football talk to come. You can always catch our shows, replays of the shows, along with all the other stuff in the Watchdog and the Watchdog Network, PineRoomStudios.com, at the Pine Room Studios on YouTube. You can follow us on social media at Watchdog Network WV. You can follow us at the Pine Room Studios. And we'll be back here with you next week for show number 133. I'll be back on the radio. I should be, at least in the coming days, back on the Pine Room on the Watchdog on our Tuesday and Friday spots as we get prepared for the big final mid-run of summer on to football season. So, hard to believe it's here. We've already surpassed, by the time I'm back here, it'll be July, and that's just hard to believe. So, nonetheless, it's good to be back with you. Thanks for tuning in once again, and feel free to get a hold of the show, too. BLS_PRP. You can message us. You can email us at the Pine Room Studios webpage, watchdognetwork.com. You can call in the radio show to get a hold of us. Anything you want us to talk about more here on the show or dive into further, we'll be happy to do so. Lots on the docket here for the sporting calendar coming your way in the coming weeks here on Bettor's Last Stand. We appreciate you joining us here on the Watchdog Network, and we will see you next week for show number 133 here on Bettor's Last Stand on the Watchdog. Thanks for listening to the Watchdog Network and Bettor's Last Stand in the Pine Room Studios. We'll see you next week.